What do you prioritize the most as a CEO?
Survival. There's a great Jason Njoku writes a brilliant blog. One of my favorite posts of it is just effing survive.
Okay.
And that's his advice to startups. It's going to get tough. You're going to have horrible funding years. You're going to have horrible market years. Just don't die, because if you survive long enough, you build enough muscles. I mean, let me give you another example of that is The Martian. Fantastic book and movie. And it's like, you solve one problem, and you solve another problem, and then you solve another problem. And if you solve enough problems, you get to go home. You win. And so that's what startups are. You solve one problem, you solve another, you solve another. If you solve enough of them, you win.
And if you don't?
And if you don't, you die. You don't want to die. You also don't want to be a zombie, I guess. There is the zombie startup, which is you haven't solved enough problems, but you haven't died, and so you're not really going to win.
I have to get some kind of go ahead from Tomiwa, because he's like my landlord here. So welcome to my landlord here, giving me a space. Yeah, Africa Tech Radio's podcast at Techcabal's Moonshot.
Yeah, or at Moonshot by Techcabal.
Moonshot by Techcabal 2023.
Yep.
Okay, someone said Moonlight earlier on, but yeah.
No, I ain't Moonlight.
Moonshot.
We're shooting for the moon.
Beautiful. So it's good, the work you've done. Great, actually. Wonderful.
Thank you.
The work that you and the brand Techcabal has done. I speak to some people from South Africa, Kenya, and they're like, oh, do you know Tomiwa Techcabal? I'm like, oh, well, he's Nigerian, so yeah, I know him. Yeah, I know him. Now I know him. What inspires you to keep going for it?
So thanks for having me, first of all.
Thank you.
I love the work. I've been in media my whole career, and building media brands that matter to people, that tell stories that matters to me. I didn't found Techcabal. It's something that I always tell people. It's like I joined. It existed for almost 5 years before I joined, or 4 or 5 years before I joined it. And when I joined because I thought it was a beautiful brand and it deserved a place in the world, and I could help it grow even further into that space. So for almost 6 years that I've led this publication, we've attempted to tell the stories of African innovation, of the business and the impact of technology on the continent. And I find that very exciting. I find building new expressions of that innovation, of that technology, to be great. So things like Moonshot is a chance to build a big new event property, one that matters, that brings really audacious people together. And it's an exciting way to tell our stories. It's an exciting new way to tell our stories, to bring more people together and showcase what it is that we do and why it matters. And that gets me out of bed in the morning. It excites me.
Day 1, day 2, day 3. For those who do not know, it's been 3 days, right?
Yeah, it's a 2-day conference, but we had an opening mixer the night before. So yeah, 3 days.
Okay. What does it feel like to have done this?
I mean, exhausting.
By the way, I wanted to get him on day 2, but
yeah,
it wasn't a good time at all.
Yeah, it feels amazing. It's rare that you hit it out the park the first time, and I gotta say, for my team, they've done an amazing job, and I think that we've been very lucky and very blessed, and we have done a pretty decent job. I mean, from what others have told us, the speakers have been amazing. We found and managed to convince a lot of really smart and really audacious and bold people to come and talk about the work that they do. The audience presence has been amazing. Our sponsors seem to be happy. And I think for the audience that's come, they've had a valuable time. They've had a great experience. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about being able to build it out and become even bigger as a Pan-African property. So the goal with Moonshot is to bring the smartest people in African tech together to celebrate the work that they do, but also to get them together to dream up new ideas, dream up new solutions, to be bolder together, and to solve Africa's biggest problems with innovation and technology. We want to be a platform that encourages that and pushes that. And so, if there were speakers from maybe 5 to 8 countries here this time. Next year, we want 20 to 25 African countries to be represented. We had investors from some of Africa's top investment VCs and some PE. Next year, we want all of Africa's top VCs and PEs. We want the banks and the telcos to come and join the conversation. We want big enterprise companies to come and join the conversation. I will say this. When Techcabal started, we covered startups. And I say we didn't even cover startups in Nigeria. We covered startups in Yaba, like one part of Lagos. And over time, we've grown to cover Nigeria, to cover Africa, and to go beyond startups to everything tech and innovation. And so we don't want it to be a conversation that's limited to startups. We want enterprise companies to come and be part of this. We want the telcos, are the pipes and the foundation which a lot of our tech ecosystem is. So we want them to be part of this. We want data centers. We want emerging tech. So all the people doing the most exciting and interesting new things, we want them to come and join us. Moonshot 2024 and beyond.
So what's the next thing? So you've done Yaba. By the way, for those who do not know, Yaba is like the origin, place, and story for Nigeria's
startup ecosystem.
Yes. So you've done Yaba, you've done Lagos, you've done Nigeria. Most people outside the country, Nigeria, the rest of the continent, hear of Techcabal. What's the next move, next play for that Pan-Africanness?
So we've been deepening our coverage across the continent. We have a full-time reporter covering South Africa based there. We have a full-time East Africa reporter based out of Nairobi. We have a full-time sort of like francophone reporter. Before the end of the year, we are expecting to find somebody in North Africa to cover that. And so we're deepening our presence. We are making a concerted effort to go to events like this in other markets. So, and we send editorial teams, we send commercial teams, because it's important to understand those markets better and to build deeper and deeper relationships. We've always attended quite a number of conferences and events across the continent just to make sure we have a presence, but we're being a lot more strategic and deliberate about it. And I think the goal is to be able to cover the continent pretty robustly by having people on ground in the places that matter, in the biggest tech ecosystems. But we also do a lot of work to connect with smaller technology ecosystems across the continent. Like we will get a call from countries that aren't thought of as the forefront of tech. So for instance, we sent a few people to DRC earlier this year to meet a lot of the key players in that ecosystem, and there's interesting things happening in there. They want coverage, they want to be seen. We want to cover and capture those things. And so every once in a while, we'll get a bunch of people to go someplace new and understand that ecosystem. Every once in a while, a few of our reporters will decamp, and Abraham, one of our people, was like, I'm going to go spend a few weeks in Nairobi and then a few weeks in Kigali, and I'm going to meet people and understand it. So we'll shoot out, via social and our newsletters when that happens, but it is useful to know that someone's going to be in Dakar for a few weeks and is happy to
and then
meet
you can
people
pitch
in the
stories
ecosystem.
to him. You can
Exactly.
He can tell stories while he's on ground there, and it's not just no pressure of just an event happening.
No, it's just we're on ground. We want to know what's happening. But invite us as well if your ecosystem is popping and you think we don't know. Send us a lead. Send us an email. You got a room for us to crash on, a couch for us to crash on. We just might send somebody to come and cover that space.
You heard it. Techcabal is everyone kind of like looks up to, like the pace setter kind of.
I love it.
Now to me,
all right,
how big is the content space, especially those telling the stories about tech and driving the narrative about tech, like the tech media space? How big is it? How big can it get?
How big is the media space in Africa? Huge. Totally underinvested in. Totally like unexplored as far as I'm concerned. We are covering like 1% of the storytelling and media space that we should in Africa media. If I started to list spaces where we need important media businesses and publications, I would be going till tomorrow. And so It's a space where, and this is despite the amazing work that the people in music on the continent have done, that the people in movies on the continent have done. Despite that, I think media in Africa is a tiny fraction of the size it should be. Now, in terms of tech media, it's also got a long, long way to grow. At Techcabal, we think that technology will be the biggest driver of innovation, of employment growth, and high-quality employment growth, of productivity growth across countries over the next decade and beyond. And what that means is that the media that covers that technology must grow. Like, there must be more of us to tell the stories of what's happening, how technology is affecting people's lives. And again, it's not just startups, it's what's happening in big tech. It's what's happening at the bleeding edge of technology. And so, as long as our thesis is right, that technology will continue to deliver some of the most important growth and productivity impact on the continent, then I think that the space for the media that covers it will continue to expand and to grow. And for instance, when somebody invests in us as a company, Techcabal, and our parent company, Byte-Cabal, it's because this is a rapidly growing space. It's not going to get any less important. Even though there's a funding downturn this year or whatever it is, it's a temporary dip. We know that we believe that this industry is really just getting started. And so there's a lot of room to grow, and the media will grow with it.
What do you prioritize the most as a CEO?
Survival.
Isn't that supposed to be human instinct?
I mean, there's a great Jason Njoku writes a brilliant blog, and one of my favorite posts of it is just effing survive, or just effing don't die. And that's his advice to startups, is just like, it's going to get tough. You're going to have horrible funding years. You're going to have horrible market years. You're going to just don't die, because if you survive long enough, you build enough muscles. Let me give you another example of that is The Martian, fantastic book and movie. And there's a line that it comes from both the book and the movie, and it's like, you solve one problem, and you solve another problem, and then you solve another problem. And if you solve enough problems, you get to go home. You win. And so that's what startups are. You solve one problem, you solve another, you solve another. If you solve enough of them, you win.
And if you don't?
And if you don't, you die. You don't want to die.
Okay. Nobody wants to die.
I mean, you also don't want to be a zombie, I guess. So there is the
good motivation.
No, you don't want to be a zombie. There is the zombie startup, which is you haven't solved enough problems, but you haven't died, and so you're not really gonna win. That's a really tough place to be, because you never know when to call it quits or when to keep going. But for the most part, if you can continue to find momentum, find new avenues for growth, find new ways to win, solve new problems, you win, you go home.
How do you unwind? Mental health is a big issue.
Yeah.
It's on the lips of everyone. You hear like a lot of people thinking it's just on the employee level, or just on the I'm not a CEO, so my CEO is like the bad guy, and kind of. But then I think it's a denominator. It's everyone gets to. So how do you unwind? How do you deal with stress?
It's definitely at all levels. I mean, being a CEO is the definition of stress. It's everybody in the business's stress compounded into, like, you're responsible.
Yes,
for all of their problems.
Exactly.
I'm a bit of an exercise fiend. Ooh. I used to be a very big runner. I used to be a marathon runner. I don't do that anymore, but I still like to work out fairly regularly, which is good. It's good for the mind. I'm a big reader, both fiction and non-fiction, and so the stuff I read for work and the stuff that's just purely for me. I'm a big fantasy and science fiction reader, for instance.
Okay.
I have a family, and this is very, very important.
Is it really a thing?
Oh, absolutely. It grounds you.
Does that help you distress? Does it?
I mean, it brings its own stresses, but it absolutely does. I've got 2 daughters under 2. They are amazing. Home is a safe place. Like, I've got a wife who cares and who we're in this journey together. I've got these kids that are just pure and, are light. And, you get to go there, and no matter how hard the project, how hard the day is, there is a point It might be 6 p.m. It might be midnight. It might be 1 a.m. Where I'm like, all right, we're done enough for today. Let's put this down. We'll come back to it tomorrow, and leave that. Just leave that thing alone. And so being able to do that, and spend some time with people who want you to succeed in whatever you're doing, but who also care about you, whatever the case. That's special. That's valuable.
What 3 apps would you never delete from your phone? Uninstall, delete.
I mean, well, the Kindle/book app. Let's keep that.
Okay, for a reader, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big reader. What else is? Interesting. I delete the social media apps semi-regularly.
Are you serious?
I keep deleting them, then I come back to them.
Love-hate relationship.
Yeah, love-hate. Definitely love-hate. What else do I consider an absolutely essential? I mean, you got to pay the man, so I guess a banking app of some sort.
Everybody.
Not shouting out any banks, but, gotta have one of those. And what else is absolutely essential? I don't know. What are your apps? Maybe remind me.
So I think over a couple of years.
I got the answer.
What's the answer?
It's Spotify.
Music.
Need the Spotify. Music's essential. I mean, there's all the work apps, because if I delete Gmail, I get fired. But yeah, so I guess I've given you 4. It's Gmail, it's Spotify, it's a Kindle or a book app of some sort, and yeah.
Love-hate relationship. Social media doesn't count. It doesn't count.
No social. Yeah.
Okay. Now you mentioned Spotify.
Yeah.
What has your playlist look like 2023?
2023. It's a very sad story. But shout out Mobad, who passed away this year, but amazing musician. And
Take a line.
Listening to a lot of stuff.
Do us a line from anything that has inspired you.
I won't. Mobad sings mostly in the songs that are most personal to me from Mobad are in Yoruba, and my singing is atrocious, so I'm going to save your audience the pain of me singing or attempting Mobad's work. But Ask About Me by Mobad is beautiful, amazing song. I listen to a ton of Nigerian music of like Nigerian artists, Adekunle Gold. Davido's last album was amazing. So big fan of South African house. Big fan. I'm a big music guy. I'm a big hip hop head. I'm a big soul and jazz head.
Ooh, jazz.
Yeah.
Hold on. No. We're not gonna pass that way. Are you still doing a list? Are you still moving?
I mean, there's a lot of other stuff, but I'm happy to stop and talk about soul or jazz.
Okay. 2 artists, all-time favorites. Jazz.
I am a big Thelonious Monk fan. I really love Monk.
Okay.
And I guess Miles. Miles is worth. Yeah, always worth mentioning.
Okay, I know what to play now when I invite you over.
Sounds good. This morning I was listening to one of my all-time favorites. Actually, so all-time favorite jazz songs, like things that important. In a sentimental mood. This morning, Holy Thursday by David Axelrod. Amazing. And then my daughters are not 2 yet, but they must have Take 5 like embedded in their brains already.
Because of course your dad is a jazz head.
Just constantly. Yeah. So love me some jazz.
Thank you very much for the chat. It was good talking with you.
It was a pleasure. That last bit got very random, but I hope the audience enjoys it.
Life is really random, I guess.
Yeah.